Okay, so hello, my name is Bertha Wheaton, and with me is my fellow Institutional Management for Healthcare classmate, Gabriel Myers. Gabriel and I would like to introduce and welcome the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs of the University of Illinois Hospital and Health Science System, also known as UI Health, Dr. Robert Barish. Dr. Barish is a distinguished physician and academic leader. As the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs, he oversees UI Health's clinical enterprise that includes a 455-bed tertiary care hospital, 40-plus care locations, and 12-mile square health center facilities, which are federally qualified health centers. Dr. Barish earned his medical degree from New York Medical College in 1979. He interrupted his residency training for 1 year to provide medical treatment to refugees at camps along the Thai-Cambodian border and in Somalia. He went on to complete an internal medicine residency at New York's St. Vincent's Hospital and Medical Center in 1983 and an emergency medicine residency at Georgetown University Medical Center in 1985. Dr. Barish earned his MBA from Loyola College in 1995. He is a member of Alpha Omega Alpha Medical Honor Society, a former lieutenant colonel and flight surgeon in the Maryland Air National Guard, and was among a select group invited to interview to become a NASA astronaut candidate in the early 1990s. And these are just a few of his many accomplishments. Welcome, Dr. Barish.
Well, thank you, Bertha. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So we will now begin our interview with questions from Gabrielle.
Great. Wow, that's pretty impressive background, Dr. Barish. Pretty impressive.
Yes, it is.
So my first question will be, can you talk a little bit about your professional journey that has led to your current position here at the University of Illinois?
Sure. Well, thanks, Gabriel. Yeah, my journey began in 1985 when the University of Maryland was looking for a new chair of emergency medicine. And I had trained at Georgetown, also the Shock Trauma Center there at the University of Maryland, and at George Washington. And I was clearly too young for the job, but I was told, why don't you interview, good interview experience. No one gets to be the chair right out of their second residency. So I went there, I interviewed, I had a wonderful time. And sure enough, the chairman of surgery liked me, the chair of medicine and pediatrics. And at a very, very young age, I was offered to be the chair of emergency medicine at a big academic health center. And I felt like if they had the courage to offer it to me, I should have the courage to take it. So that was 1985, and we built up the Department of Emergency Medicine from just 3 of us initially to now it's over 14 hospitals and has over 50 or 60 residents a year. And so that's where my career began. And I then rose to the ranks of the University of Maryland from assistant professor, associate professor, full professor, and then I was afforded the opportunity to become Dean of Clinical Affairs at the university. So I was offered it. Again, I took it, and I thought I'd stay at the University of Maryland for forever. You know, I knew so many people in Maryland. I knew the legislature, I knew all the politicians, and had so many friends there. And then I got a call from my former commanding general in the Maryland Air National Guard, and I was out at the time. I'd served my time in as a flight surgeon. He said, "Doc, I need you." And I said, "Sir, I thought I was out." He said, "Son, you're never out." And so what happened was Katrina happened in Louisiana, New Orleans, and they needed physicians to come back and help take care. And so I joined an Army unit called the Maryland Defense Forces, and got on a C-130 airplane about 4 in the morning and helped lead a regiment that we saw over 6,000 patients. So that's how I got to know Louisiana a little bit. And when I was in Louisiana, which is kind of a relationship state. If you're born in Louisiana, you kind of stay in Louisiana. And so LSU was looking for a chancellor up at the big medical center up in Shreveport, Louisiana. There were 3 hospitals, UEP Long, EA Conway, and the big medical center, trauma center up in Shreveport, Louisiana, together with the medical school and graduate school. So they asked me to apply to be the chancellor, and one thing led to another. I ended up at LSU as a chancellor and stayed there 7 years. And then Illinois created this position, and I worked for Dr. Donald Wilson at Maryland. Dr. Donald Wilson was the first African-American dean at the University of Maryland, was a former faculty member at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And he put my name in and said, Bob, I want you to apply for this new position, the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs. You're going to oversee all the colleges, all the health science colleges, and the delivery system. It's a new position, never been before at the university, and I think you do a good job. And I said, well, sir, well, thanks for your confidence, but Louisiana and Chicago, a little bit different cultures here. I'm not sure they're going to be interested in somebody come from Louisiana. But one thing led to another. I had 27 people on my search committee, and they invited me back after 2 days. And sure enough, the new chancellor, Dr. Michael Amaritis, offered me the position. So I'm going into my 9th year in January. So I'll be completing my 8 years here at the university. So that's my journey, how I ended up at the university.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Well, this brings us to our next question. So when you have entered a new workplace in the past, describe how you have gone about meeting and developing relationships with your new coworkers, supervisors, and reporting staff.
Sure. Well, I think the true test of a leader is their ability to listen. So I know when I'm asked questions, what's your strategic plan? What's your vision? I often say, I just got here, and there have been people here 25, 30 years, and they also have a vision. So a little presumptuous of me to say, well, here's my vision for Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs. So I do a lot of listening, and I really learn a lot in that regard, because the more listening you do, the more you learn, and you get a lot of different points of view. I've learned in life that you have to, there's always several sides to the story. One of the most famous senators in Louisiana taught me that he used to say, Chancellor, there's always 3 sides to a story, just like a coin. And I would say, well, sir, I thought there were only 2 sides to a coin, heads or tails. He says, no, there's that side of the coin too, that side of the coin. So he'd always tell me, you have to listen. You have to listen to all sorts of what people are saying and their points of view. So that's really what I've learned over my now almost 35 years of this, of being in leadership positions, that you really have to be a good listener and don't be so presumptuous as if you know everything, because you certainly don't. And so, and Bertha will tell you my leadership styles. I listen a lot. People aren't afraid to tell me what they think. There's, I say, you got to speak truth to power. If you don't like what I'm doing, you think I should be doing something else, I need to know, because that's the only way we'll all get better. So that's been my leadership style. And also, I think it was the president of the Cubs, Chicago Cubs, or the owner of the Cubs, who used to say, what was his philosophy? Hire great people who hire great people, let them do their job. Once you hire people, you really can't get in their way. I mean, you need to know what they do and how they're performing, but you hire them because they're really good. And so you really got to let them do their job. And I don't micromanage the people who I hire. I've never done that, and I never will.
I like that. Thank you. Well, here's our next question. We'd like to know, how do you motivate your employees?
Well, I think the biggest thing is obviously you have to be there. So you have to be, and you have to lead. And I think the way to motivate people is to show them what the vision is, where we're trying to go, and to have them trust you. If your employees don't trust you, I don't think they'll ever be motivated. So you have to be a person of your word. You have to try to say, here's what we're going to do, and deliver it. And also, I think also you have to take an interest in the employees as well. I like to learn all about my employees. I like to help them when I can. So I think, and also I like to help them in their careers. At my stage of my career, the biggest satisfaction I get, and like working with you, Gabriel and Bertha, is to see you grow and enhance your careers, because I'm an old guy now. I've accomplished a lot, been a good career, but I'd like to see other people come up in life and do the things they want to do and improve in ways that they want to improve. So that's the biggest satisfaction. Trust. You got to learn about trust, and you also have to be there, and you have to be interested in people, and you want to see people advance.
Spectacular. So I have one additional question for you, Dr. Barish,
Right.
and that question is, can you describe a conflict that you were involved in at work, and how did you resolve this conflict?
Sure. So, there's an old story that bad news doesn't get better with time. So sometimes you just have to, one thing about conflict is it's kind of, you got to run towards it, not run away from it, because you got to try and solve it. And again, listening to old points of view. So yeah, we have, especially in medicine, we often disagree with things. We have our own points of view, and so, but if there's conflict, again, you have to get people in a room and say, tell me your point of view, and you try to listen and see if there is a way to solve it. Sometimes you can't solve everything, but if you get people in a room and listen to them and say, here's why I feel this way, here's where I feel that way, and you try to see if you can come up with a compromise situation or position if possible. But I will say one thing about conflict: you can't run away from it, you got to run towards it. And I learned that early on in my life, that if I kept pushing it off, it never got better. It never, and it festers, conflict just festers. So it's difficult, but in a way, great leaders kind of look forward to conflict, because that's part of their job. Part of their job is to try to resolve it and deal with it. Now, not everybody's happy. You don't always have these win-win situations. People talk about, oh, it's win-win. I very rarely have had win-win situations. I've had okay, but we don't always have win-win, because sometimes, two sides can't always win.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel, for your questions, and Dr. Barish for those enlightening answers. Very informative. So my first question will be, how have you established a relationship with your employees to allow them to feel comfortable coming to you with comments and concerns?
Yes. Well, I think I may have addressed part of that, Bertha. I think
Yes.
that it's important that your employees tell you the truth. There's an old saying in the military, I don't want to be well fed and lied to. So when you get to be the general's level, they always say, don't tell me what I want to hear, tell me what I need to hear. And I think you have to have employees feel comfortable. Margaret's my chief of staff. She often tells me what she thinks about some of my ideas, and which is great. And so do the rest of us. Sometimes, Bertha, you'll say to me, well, I don't know about that, Dr. B. I said, that's good, because I need to know. And everybody's got a point of view that needs to be heard. So, but once we come to a decision, then we got to kind of get in line, because if you come to a decision as a leader and everybody's then going in different directions, so you can have your points of view, discuss them, say why you think. But at the end of the day, when we come up and say, okay, we're going to head in this direction, then we put all those discussions behind us and we just try to move forward.
Okay.
But I don't want to be well fed and lied to.
Okay, we'll make sure we don't do that. Okay, our next question is, in your opinion, what skills do you feel are important for a new graduate in the health administration field to possess?
So again, that most important thing is listening and also taking action. In healthcare, we call speed to execution. We don't have as much luxury with some of the decisions we have to make. So sometimes it's really listening to people, asking people who may have more experience how they might handle this situation, and asking for advice, having a mentor. By the way, not only one mentor, multiple mentors, because sometimes one mentor gives you the wrong advice, right? There's On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando is one of my favorite movies. There's a scene in there where he's about to actually get killed at the end, and his quote unquote half brother thinks he helped him all in life. And he says, and Marlon Brando says, I could have been somebody. I could have been something. And it's a famous line if you ever watch. It's black and white, On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando. He had the wrong mentor. Okay? And so I would advise you to have multiple mentors, seek advice, and don't be afraid to ask questions of people who have been around for a long time, and say, how might you handle this situation? How have you done in the past? So that's what I would do. And then when you finally do something, you got to take action. You got to move, especially in healthcare.
Yes. Okay. Just two more questions.
Sure.
Describe how your soft and hard technical skills have evolved as you have climbed the corporate ladder. What became more and less important for your success?
Sure. To me, it's the soft skills. I got my MBA, so I learned the language of business, but I'm not doing spreadsheets anymore. I'm not doing you're much more advanced in many of the technical skills that I should have. So I rely on people like you, because they all kid me. Well, Dr. B, anytime you get beyond cut and paste, he's lost. Okay. So it's not the technical skills anymore, because it's people like yourself who have better technical skills than me, but I can ask you, show me how to do this or do it. It's the soft skills, dealing with people, understanding, how they might react to certain situations. I think those are the key to advancing. It's really more the soft skills, because I can get people who have much more technical skills than myself and do a much better job.
Mhm.
But early on in my career, yeah, I had to know it. But now I have a staff that really helps me. And actually, the staff really wants to make me succeed, I think. That's another thing. You have to have the people who work for you. Not only do you want them to succeed, but they have to work to help you to succeed, because otherwise I'm not going anywhere.
Yes, and I'm glad that we're here to help you, Dr.
That's
B.
right.
So again, my final question, and this one I like the most, you've kind of already touched on it with the Marlon Brando movie.
Yes.
But is there a book, a TED Talk, an article, or even a
Yeah.
documentary you would recommend to future health administrators to encourage or motivate them?
Yeah, there's a great book. It's kind of an icon of a book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. Good to Great. I would recommend. And how do you take a good organization and make them great? And what's been the history of organizations who were good but got to great? What are the things you need to do? So I would recommend that. I think it's a great book. Jim Collins has been a bestseller forever. And if there's one book I would recommend for your class, it's Good to Great.
Okay. Okay, well, that concludes our interview, and thank you so very much, Dr.
Yeah, it was
Barish.
great.
Truly appreciate it. It was very illuminating and enlightening. And again, we would just like to thank you for helping to guide future health administrators on our path to success.
Good. And let's keep in touch.
Yes, very much
All
so.
right. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barish.
You're welcome, Gabriel. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Trying to figure out how
That
to
was
end
so
this.
great.
That was good.